Hello, I'm Brian Lamb from Intranet Now. I'm going to talk today about Intranet strategy with Chris Tubb and Steve Bynghall. Chris and Steve, introduce yourselves.
Hi, Brian. I'm Steve Bynghall. I'm an Intranet consultant. I do some work for the Digital Workplace Group. I also do some work for James Robertson and Step 2. And I blog with Chris at Intranet Directions.
Hi, Brian. I'm Chris Tubb. I'm Intranet and Digital Workplace Consultant. I do a lot of work with Steve, do a fair amount with DWG as well. I spend most of my time thinking about intranet strategy and working with big organizations to help them.
Great. So we'll start today's chat with a question that's been on my mind this week as I thought about talking to you guys, and that is Intranet teams. Very, very busy doing stuff. Why should they make time? Why should they take time out to do this strategy thing? It seems a bit vague. There's lots of stuff that they could be doing, urgent stuff. Why should they pause and strategize?
A lot of intranet teams do exist without an intranet strategy, and they kind of carry on regardless, if you like. And I think we know that not having a strategy kind of limits what teams do. I think it's very much linked with kind of poor governance, and senior managers tend to lose interest if you're just kind of plowing on regardless. I think the main reason, though, is that without kind of making your intranet specific to what your business requires, you're really just turning into a bland copy of what everybody else is doing. And then you cease to be relevant to the organization, and you cease to be able to solve specific problems.
I think I agree with Chris. So without an intranet strategy, you're effectively standing still. And, while technology moves, user expectations move, and organizations move, and, your intranet should be moving in that same direction. As everyone else changes and your intranet doesn't, it kind of starts to depreciate in value. And you really need a strategy to make sure you're aligning with everything that is happening outside. And just to go back to your original point, Brian, about intranet teams, they are extremely busy, they're under-resourced, and often because the strategy needs that sort of time to think about it outside the day-to-day operations, they often find they're running pillar to post, and it becomes deprioritized, when actually they need to spend some time to work out exactly how they can deliver value to the organization, work out that strategy, and then start to prioritize their activities based on the aims of that strategy rather than just meeting the day-to-day needs.
The intranet is a really equivocal space. There's lots to debate. There's lots of different meanings to different people. No one really goes off and has an instant messaging steering group, or no one really worries about the email strategy. But there are so many different aspects to intranets and so many different groups using it for different things that it is a very widely interpreted space. And an intranet strategy really does help to bring those discussions together and allows you to kind of create a plan of action which is very, very specific to what you need.
I think there's also another reason actually why sometimes many intranet teams don't have an up-to-date strategy, and that's because it tends to be only regarded as worthwhile when you're thinking about possibly the latter stages of an intranet life cycle. So it's when you're thinking about replacing the platform or going for a major relaunch, or maybe you're upgrading the product. Then you sort of hold off from doing your intranet strategy.
If it just turns into the form that you need to get the software that you need, it's kind of doing it a massive disservice.
Good. Well, I'm starting to feel a little bit more warm to the idea of taking some time out and doing it, especially if it means that I might stop doing some stuff. Sounds pretty appealing, probably, to lots of teams out there. Say I want to get my feet wet, I want to get started. What's the first set of things I need to do?
Open your eyes to the reality of the organization and what's going on. This whole sort of element of discovery is so important. I mean, I think a lot of intranet managers feel that they understand what's going on very intimately, but because we've got lots of different opinions, lots of different stakeholders, all with different needs, it can be really good just to step back, talk with people, and there's a variety of tools that we use to be able to talk with people. We've got surveys, we've got things like user diaries, stakeholder interviews, focus groups, workshops. There's loads of ways that you can use to get this sort of data in and get this information in. But the purpose of getting this information in is to be able to reflect on what the current state is, what is it that you want, what is it that people want, and what are your weaknesses, what are the things that are going to prevent you kind of going forward. You may well have, many strengths as well, but it's really getting all of this stuff together to be able to enter a stage of what we call diagnosis. What's the problem that you've got? How are you going to solve it? The whole point of having what we call diagnosis is to really be able to reflect on all of that information and data and opinion that you've gathered, all of the other strategies which are going to relate to you, whether that's communications or collaboration or IT strategy. All of these things kind of come to you and you end up with this great big pool of information. And it's then your role as an intranet manager to kind of make sense for this, but look at it in a kind of a critical way. We've got loads of problems is no good. What are the reasons behind those problems? And an organization, when they're looking at intranet strategy, wants to be able to maybe look at some new good ideas with a dose of self-criticism. And that's really quite hard in a lot of organizations to say, we did things wrong, we always do things wrong. What are the ways that we can kind of mitigate the risks of doing this wrong in the future?
Chris, I think when looking at diagnosis, sometimes it's not all bad news.
You're hinting at the answer to my next question, which is really you build a big list in this diagnosis phase of things that the organization wants to achieve, or things that are problems or obstacles in their path. How do you move from that into actually deciding, well, this is our direction?
So you have to play this intranet game. You're only going to have a limited amount of resources to do it. How do you focus those resources on doing the right thing?
I've done my diagnosis, and I've got a nice picture of the things confronting the organization, opportunities as well as problems in the kind of intranet landscape, and I've got all this data, if you like, and now I want to try and pick a direction to go in with my strategy. What's important here?
I've yet to meet an intranet team with too many resources to deliver what they want. With resources being limited, you're going to need to concentrate your attention on the critical aspects of your strategy. So if you're going to play the intranet as a game, how can you play it best? So we're very much looking at what we call the kernel of a strategy, which we call the guiding policy. And the guiding policy is the center of a strategy. It describes your overall approach or your principles about how you're going to solve the problem.
So yes, so after you have all that information from your diagnosis, and you then really need to turn that into or knock that into shape into a kind of strategy. And I think the top level, you're looking at what we call a guiding policy, and this is really the basis on which the rest of your strategy will refer back to. So for example, a guiding policy might be that we want the intranet to help drive a one company culture because that's important for the overall commercial objectives of your organization. Once you have that guiding policy, you can then try and work out which direction is your intranet going to take to kind of help deliver that. So
you're equipped with a guiding policy and a direction that you're going to travel in. I like that. It provides you with a sort of filter for fending off and prioritizing and so on. But still, pretty big picture. I'm now what I'm wanting to do is act out in my daily intranet work life. So what is it I do to kind of bring direction, guiding policy, to bring the strategy to life in everyday work?
Well, the key thing is choosing the right tactics, and quite often practitioners confuse their strategy with the tactic. So for example, social isn't a strategy, it's a tactic for delivering something else. SharePoint, God help us, isn't a strategy, it's a tactic for delivering something else. When you're armed with your guiding policy, when you're armed with an overall intranet direction that you want to take, you can then begin to choose from a variety of tactics to be able to deliver that overarching policy.
As Chris said, it's really important not to kind of confuse strategy with tactics, because I think the moment you do that, when you speak to your senior stakeholders about what you're doing and the direction you're taking, it's then you start to appear tactical and operational rather than kind of strategic, and you can lose their kind of respect and interest, and they'll regard the intranet project as an operational one rather than a strategic one. When you're trying to kind of look at the different tactics, these can range from huge mega projects like launching a social and collaboration platform, or integrating different intranet platforms into an overall enterprise intranet, or it can be kind of quite small. You might be building up a relationship with IT and you have a regular lunch with them. They're all small or large ways to deliver the kind of strategy.
Thank you, Chris and Steve. That's been a really interesting journey through, a very quick journey through formulating your intranet strategy, but lots of stimulus there, I think. And if you'd like to spend some time working through those stages and working on your intranet strategy, then we are having a workshop in London on the 21st of January. You can sign up at the URL that you're seeing now. Chris and Steve, do you want to just kind of sum up and tell us maybe a little bit about what kind of a workshop we're going to have?
Brian, it's going to be intensely practical. It's going to be we're really going to be working through people's problems as they bring them in. Hopefully they'll bring the real issues that they're dealing with in their day jobs. And as they work through each of those, hopefully they'll be able to take actions back to their desks and to really work on formulating their intranet strategy when they get back to work the next day.
And I think it will be a very sort of supportive atmosphere, because there'll be other intranet peers there, and it's a real opportunity to step out of that the day-to-day bustle of your intranet role and explore some of these themes in a deeper way, in a kind of supportive atmosphere. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really good day.